Alright, this week's Sonic Adventure 2 IL comp is Metal Harbor Mission 3. So I wanted to share some info on this carrier. Hopefully this ends up being useful. Uh, Basically, I'm just going to go over the task strat first because it'll kind of lay the framework for what we're doing here. So before I mention anything actually, this speed pad gives 14 speed and these two both give 12. I'm sure most people know, but this is the fastest one to hit. And in this setup up here, this one gives 10 and both of these give 12. So if you end up using both speed pads, make sure to hit this one and hit one of these two. In this case, it really doesn't matter which one you hit. One locks your analog stick for 1 frame longer than the other. It doesn't really matter. You'll be rolling anyway, probably. So for the rolling along this hill strategy, you want to finish charging the spin dash right when you hit the speed pad, because what that's going to do, this value here is stored speed, and that's what the spin dash speed will release with when you release B, and you want that to store immediately after getting the speed boost. So right here I get the 14 speed and then it stores on the next frame. So this is frame perfect. If you're not frame perfect, you'll be like 0.2 lower, so like 13.6. If you're 2 frames off, you'll be like 13.4. You get kind of punished pretty bad for not being precise on that one. But essentially, when you're rolling on these hills and you're rolling like horizontally across them, it more or less locks your speed at whatever it was when you started. If you can roll slightly down, you can actually build a bit of speed. So you can see that this is forward speed. Basically for the entire video, that's the only address you really need to look at. You can see that that slowly goes up. But there is a bit of a problem here for non-task players, which is that conserving speed from this hill to the flat ground, you basically want to be going as parallel as possible between the two. And that means you have to like curve up and then like harshly like snap back so that you're going perfectly straight when you go across these two. So you can see that that gives 13.89 speed, and if I just like grab my controller and hold a stick angle, you can see that I lost a substantial amount of speed, and also if you turn too sharply it'll just go in the air. But yeah, you have to like hold to the side and then like snap to the other side to keep all your speed here, and I just don't think that that's too reasonable to do non-task. Maybe some god gamers could pull it off. I'm not going to say it can't be done, but it seems kind of unreasonable. So the reason that's important is because the speed that we have here is the speed we're carrying throughout the rest of the carrier. So if you lose speed here, you're moving slower the entire rest of the path. But the idea here is basically we're going to be losing speed on the flat ground. So you want to take a really hard line over to this ground and then do essentially the same thing where you're going to curve into it and want to transition from this triangle to this triangle like completely parallel to the seam. And if that's all done like task perfect, you can have 11.48 speed here, which is really good. A standard spin dash is slightly over 10. So that's more than you can get with a spin dash by far, and you carry that the rest of the carrier, and it's really fast. On this hill, you can actually hold, so if I hold straight forward here, you can see that I'm losing speed and kind of like curving up over time. You can actually hold up and slightly left without falling off. And that'll cause you to build speed as you do that. So if you use any strat that goes on this hill, you'll want to be doing that because that speed difference is massive in this jump. So that's the task strat. Like I said, I don't think it's too viable to do that in one continuous spin dash, but let's go over some other strategies. So let me refresh my memory and see which one I'm even watching right now. Okay, this one is basically the same thing, except you're gonna break the spin dash when you land here. So I intentionally just like lost a bunch of speed. That's like, you could probably do better than that non-task. I just was, trying to be a little generous. So you'll break the spin dash when you get onto this flat ground and then charge a new one and do essentially the same strat. So this time this is a decent charge. The charges work basically. The first frame that you have more than 10 speed is when it maxes out. So you could have 10.0 or you could have 10.39 or any value in between. And there isn't a lot of control non-tasks over which one you get. But to get a really good ending here, you kind of want a lot of speed. And again, that's going to be the same way no matter what. If you use this hill, you're kind of rolling the dice. It's not technically RNG, but it might as well be random. But yeah, this strat, you can get a whole bunch of speed going down here, and we reach the end at 18 seconds flat, more or less. The task strat was like 17.7 something, or 17.8 something, with a funny value. Way more speed. So if you can pull off the task strat, it'll be fastest, obviously. But the one that I just showed, it's only a little bit slower. This one here is just like the super simple strat. In this case, I think you actually do want to hit the speed pad early. You can see that the spin dash charge is pretty low. It seems it's probably more beneficial to get the speed sooner, even if you're going to be moving at a slower total speed throughout this whole sequence. Because as you can see, speed dropped a lot, and I'm only at 12.9 on this charge. But yeah, you want to just roll into these two speed pads. I'm pretty sure that just rolling here is better than charging a spin dash, but it's about even. So it shouldn't be too big of a deal. In this case, it's like around this point-ish, or maybe a little bit sooner, maybe at like the white line, you'll want to break the spin dash and charge another one, and then just do the same idea, where you go onto this slope and release and roll over to the end. This gets 18.17, so compared to that kind of sloppy strat where I do the two hills, this one here, you know, it loses between 1/10 and 2/10 depending on your execution. So if you want to save, I would say at least 1/10, then this strat is probably the go-to. I think this is viable. And if you're a god gamer, you could try and do it in one whole spin dash. Just remember that transitioning onto these hills and off of these hills, you want to be super parallel. Also, that applies to the bottom as well. So when you're getting off of this here, I think what you want to do, like you can keep holding this sort of up left angle and just like roll off at the end and jump here. You only have like a frame to jump if you do it that way. Or you can kind of like veer off to the side more and snap down. But if you do that, it would help to like veer off a bit and then hold up, if I can get an example to work. Because you will keep more speed, but it's kind of tricky. I don't know. At the very least, the less you turn to the left here, the more speed you'll keep when you land on the ground. If I turn really hard, speed tanks. If I kind of go at a diagonal, I keep a lot more. Yeah, that's pretty much it, I think. Except I do have one bonus funny strat, which is probably not viable. But you can do the moonwalk here. And it's possible to use a bounce on this slope to turn around. So this is actually faster. It reaches this point faster than the current task, but it does have less speed. At the moment, it's like about even. I think it could be made to. I think I could beat the task with this moonwalk strat, but the instant turnaround here is really tricky because you only have one frame to snap the stick from down to up when Sonic lands his bounce. You could do it with a pause if you were crazy. Honestly, the moonwalk is probably easier up to this point, right here, than the continuous rolling strat. But yeah, I don't really want to endorse a lot of pause abuse, but I figured that would be fun to show off. Also, here's a funny ending. I get the 1999 with this one. No spin dash at the end. Yeah. That's pretty much it. I'll play back the two reasonable strats real quick. I didn't end up finishing these ones. Alright, good luck. IL competition competitors.